Hi everyone, welcome to Mr. Wagon's math class. Last chapter we talked about equations and solving equations. This new chapter will talk about inequality. For you to understand what inequality is, I need you to think about those examples that you see on a daily basis. The elevator. The maximum capacity for this elevator is 8,000 pounds, which means the maximum weight that can go on this elevator is 8,000 pounds, or up to 8,000 pounds, or no more than 8,000 pounds. Or when you go to an amusement park, up to that height, or the maximum height you can go to ride that ride in an amusement park would be that level. Under it, you can. Above it, you can't. What about on the highway and you see the semi-truck with a weigh station? Most trucks, they have to weigh their weight because if they exceed any kind of regulation for that highway, they will get a fine. What about Antarctica and the temperature? It can go down, or the minimum temperature that Antarctica goes down to is negative 130.5 Fahrenheit, which means it can go above that, but not below that. But again, remember, when you talk about inequality, there is a limit. Even though it says the minimum is negative 130.5, it can go up, but can it go up to infinity? No. That's why there is a limit when you talk about inequality, even though it says more than or less than. For today's lesson, we will be talking about writing and graphing inequalities. What we learned before, graphing numbers on a number line, such as 2 or negative 3.5, where do you put those on a number line? Writing expression using symbols, just like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, parentheses, all these things we already learned that. Comparing numbers using less than, equal, or more than. So what is the definition of inequality? Inequality is a mathematical sentence that compares expressions using symbols. And the symbols we're using are less than or equal, more than or equal, or more than, less than. To write inequality, look at this table. To start with the symbol and the key phrases were used in the sentence to know which symbol to use, let's start with less than. In a sentence, if it says is less than, is fewer than, you use the symbol less than. More than, if in a sentence it says is more than or is greater than, that means you use that symbol more than. Less than or equal is less than or equal to, is at most, is no more than. More than or equal, if in the sentence it says is greater than or equal, is at least, or is no less than. In a conclusion, you can understand or you can see you use less than or less than and equal if there is a maximum. That means it doesn't reach more than that. With more than or more than and equal, if you can sense there is a minimum that does not go below that. So in conclusion, any indication of a maximum value, use less than or equal. Any indication of a minimum value, use more than or equal. Think about the situation so you don't have to memorize a lot of things. Now let's practice with those two examples. The first one is a number w minus 3.5 is less than or equal to negative 2. I will color code this first part of the expression when in the inequality, and then the second part. A number with w minus 3.5, that means w minus 3.5, less than or equal than negative 2. The second one is negative 7/10 is at least twice a number k minus 4. So bring negative 7/10, which is the first part, is at least means less than, twice a number means 2k minus 4. Now let's talk about solutions of inequality. How do we solve inequality? Solutions of an inequality is a value that makes the inequality true. A set of value makes the inequality true is called the solution set. So it's not just one number that makes the statement true, it's multiple numbers. and they are called solution set. Tell whether negative 6 is a solution of the inequality. That's an example to see if negative 6 does make the expression or the inequality true. The first one is 21 divided by x more than or equal to negative 3.5. Substitute x with negative 6. Make sure you put the question mark because you're checking to see if that statement is true. 21 divided by negative 6 is negative 3.5. Bring more than or equal down and negative 3.5 down. That statement is true. Negative 3.5 equal negative 3.5, so negative 6 is the solution. Now let's try it with the second one. 4x minus 25 more than negative 2. Substitute x with negative 6. Make sure you put it in parentheses because just in case you're multiplying. 4 times negative 6 minus 25 with a question mark on top of the more than to check to see if it is more than negative 2. Now 4 times negative 6 is negative 24 minus 25 is negative 29 more than negative 2. Is that a true statement? Is negative 29 more than negative 2? No. Negative 29 is less than negative 2. So that is not a true statement. That means negative 6 is not a solution. Now let's talk about graphing numbers on a number line. Graphing inequality will show the solution set on a number line. Two things you need to pay attention to. Use open circle when a number is not a solution. Use closed circle when a number is a solution. Use an arrow going to the left or to the right to show the direction of the solution set. For example, graph the inequality s more than or equal to 2. Is that an indication of a maximum or a minimum? That means all the values of s has to be 2 or more. So it's 2 is the minimum value and the solution will be everything more than 2. So here's a number line. I will be using a closed circle because it does have the equal sign. It's more than or equal. So when you see that equal sign, that means the number is a solution. 2 is a solution. And because 2 is a solution, we use a closed circle. Now think about all the numbers that's more than 2. So you need an arrow to show the solution set, and that would be that blue arrow going to the right. That means all the numbers after 2, 2.1, 2.2, and all the way to infinity, positive infinity, will be the solution. If you're not sure which way to go, take one of those numbers within the solution set, like 3. Substitute it with s. Is 3 more than or equal than 2? Yes, that means my direction is right. Let's practice with another example for graphing inequality. V less than or equal the square root of 25. First of all, every time you need to evaluate first, do it before you graph. So the square root of 25 is 5. Rewrite that equation or that expression, V less than or equal to 5. That's an indication that V are all the numbers less than 5 or equal to 5. So 5 is the maximum, and that's how I can tell. So because 5 is a solution, because there's an equal sign, I'll use this closed circle. And now I need all the numbers that's less than, so I'm going to the left. To make sure, again, take one of those values, for example, 4. Is 4 less than or equal than 5? Yes, that means my direction is right. Now, how do we write inequalities from a graph? Here's the first graph. Look at the circle first. Is it closed or open? Since it's an open circle, that means there is not going to be an equal sign. It's going to be only less than or more than. And negative 1 is the maximum value. Since there is a maximum value, then I need all the numbers of x, possible numbers of x, less than negative 1. So all of them are less than negative 1. So it would be x less than negative 1. Check if negative 2 is right. Is negative 2 less than negative 1? Yes, that means my direction is right. Now here's another example. Is it an open circle or a closed circle? It is a closed circle. That means I do need an equal sign, not just more than or less than. Negative 2 is a solution, which means, and I need all the numbers that's more than negative 2, so x more than or equal than negative 2. X is more than or equal to negative 2. Check your work by trying numbers. And let's try -1 or even 0. Is 0 more than or equal to -2? Yes, it's more than. That means my direction is right. Now let's try and solve this word problem. There are 430 people in a wave pool. Write an inequality that represents how many more people can enter the pool, and they're giving you the hours. They're giving you the maximum capacity of 600 people at a time. Good. There's clues. The first one is how many more people. So we're asking how many more people it will fit. More than 430 people already exist. So the clues, I have a maximum, so I have to use less than or equal or just less than. How many more means the difference between the maximum and what we already have. 600 minus 430 is 170. So I know I can have up to 170 or no more than 170. But is 170 a solution? Yes, because 170 plus 430 is 600 and that's the maximum. Can I go more than 170? No. So to write that equation, I will be using less than or equal because 170 is a possible solution. So x is less than or equal than 170. Do you remember at the beginning of the lesson we said inequality has limits? If all the numbers less than 170 can be possible solution up to -infinity, can -1 or -2 negative numbers work? No, because you can't have negative number of people coming into the pool. So there is a limit to this inequality. Only 0 to 170 are possible set of solution when we talk about real world problems. That's it for today's lesson. You guys enjoy your day.